Hi, I'm Lori Rosakis, and welcome to Video Aided Instructions Upgrade Your Writing series. This is the fourth program in the series, Crafting Sentences. First of all, what is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that has a subject, a predicate, and expresses a complete thought. The subject will be a noun or a pronoun. The predicate is the verb or the verb phrase, and anything that is not part of the noun or the pronoun. Let's take a look at some examples to see what we're talking about. Here's a group of words that is lacking the subject. Was the oldest person elected president at age 69? That's not a sentence because we don't know who that oldest person was. Here's the corrected version. Ronald Reagan was the oldest person elected president at age 69. Well, now it's correct because now I have my subject. Here's an example of a word group that is lacking the predicate. John F. Kennedy being the youngest person elected president at age 43. Being is in the wrong form to be a complete verb. Here's the corrected version. John F. Kennedy was the youngest person elected president at age 43. And our last example is incomplete because it does not express a complete thought. Because Theodore Roosevelt was the youngest person to become president, he was 42 when he succeeded McKinley, who had been assassinated. Here's the corrected version. Theodore Roosevelt was the youngest person to become president. He was 42 when he succeeded McKinley, who had been assassinated. Now, as you can tell from these examples, you cannot use the length of the word group to decide whether the sentence is correct and complete, because you could have a very, very long word group that is still not considered a sentence because it's missing a subject or a verb or does not express a complete thought. So instead, you've got to use our three-part test. Does it have a subject? Does it have a predicate? And does it express a complete thought? So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and identify each sentence as correct or not. Explain why each incorrect sentence is incorrect. Then correct it. When you're finished, come back. Number 1, have been made throughout history and continue to be made today. Well, my question is, what have been made throughout history? What is continuing to be made today? So I'm missing my subject. I must provide a subject. Now let me see if I can think of something. Mathematical advances would make sense here. So now my sentence has a subject. Mathematical advances have been made throughout history and continue to be made today. Now my sentence is complete and it makes sense. Number 2, mathematics, wherever there are difficult problems that involve quantity, structure, space, or change. This sentence doesn't make sense either. And the reason is I'm missing a predicate. I need some verb in there to make sense. I'll try exists. Mathematics exists wherever there are difficult problems that involve quantity, structure, space, or change. Now my sentence makes sense. Number 3, most of the mathematical notation in use today not invented until at least the 16th century. Well, that doesn't make sense either. I'm obviously missing a part. I know I have my subject, most of the mathematical notation, so I must be missing my predicate, and indeed I am. I need some verb. I think I'll use a form of to be. I'll use was. Most of the mathematical notation in use today was not invented until at least the 16th century. Now my sentence is complete. Number 4, modern notation makes mathematics much easier for the professional, but beginners often find it daunting. This is correct as is. It, in my second clause, refers to modern notation, and therefore I have a compound sentence. Modern notation makes mathematics much easier for the professional. That's my first independent clause. Beginners often find it daunting. That's my second independent clause. I've joined those two independent clauses, those two complete sentences, with the conjunction but. Remember, but is a coordinating conjunction. It's one of the fanboys. Remember the fanboys? For, and, nor, F-A-N, but, or, yet, and so, boys. I'm using but here to show the contrast between the second independent clause and the first independent clause. Number 5, because mathematical language can be challenging for beginners. Well, that doesn't make sense. Because, so what happens as a result of that because? It's an incomplete thought. I'm going to delete the word because. And since my sentence is now starting with mathematical, I'm going to make that uppercase. Now it reads, mathematical language can be challenging for beginners. So I've turned a dependent clause, a clause that started with a subordinating or dependent conjunction because, into an independent clause, a complete sentence, by deleting that dependent conjunction because. Number 6, mathematicians want their theorems to follow from axioms and postulates by means of systematic reasoning. That is correct. I have my subject, mathematicians. I have my predicate. The rest of my sentence, they want their theorems to follow. So I have a complete thought and a subject and a verb. I'm correct there. Number 7, Carl Gauss, referring to mathematics as the queen of sciences. That is not correct because my predicate, the verb, is in the wrong form. My predicate, my verb, is the word referring. I have to put that into the form referred, ed, for it to be correct. Now the sentence reads, Carl Gauss referred to mathematics as the queen of sciences. And now it makes sense. Number 8, since the major disciplines within mathematics first arose out of the need to do calculations in commerce, to understand the relationships between numbers, to measure land, and to predict astronomical events. I made this one a little bit tricky. Sometimes we assume, incorrectly often, that if a sentence is very long, it must indeed be a sentence because it has so many words. You learned in this program that length is not the way by which you can judge whether a sentence is correct or not, because you can have a very short, complete sentence and a very long, incomplete group of words. This is not a complete sentence because it's not a complete thought. And the reason is that little word since. By starting with a dependent or subordinating conjunction, I have made this an incomplete thought. Since the major disciplines within mathematics first arose out of the need, blah, 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 doesn't make any sense. What does that mean? What is the result of that? So to correct that, I'm going to eliminate the word since. Now my sentence is indeed a sentence. It is indeed an independent clause because it makes sense. The major disciplines within mathematics first arose out of the need to do calculations in commerce, to understand the relationships between numbers, to measure land, and to predict astronomical events. This now makes sense. So to reiterate, do not be misled by the length of the word group. Whether it's short or long does not tell you whether it is an independent or a dependent clause. This is dependent even though it is very long. Instead, go by our rule. Does it have a subject? Does it have a predicate? And does it express a complete thought? Number 9, originates with geometry. This word group is missing a subject. I don't know what originates with geometry. It could be a ham sandwich for all I know that originates with geometry. So I've got to look at this word group and try to figure out which subject would make the most sense. I'm going to use the study of space because I happen to know that the study of space did indeed originate with geometry. Now my sentence is correct because I've added a subject. The study of space originates with geometry. Number 10, although understanding and describing change is a common theme in the natural sciences and calculus was developed as a powerful tool to investigate it. Again, very long, but not a complete sentence. The reason is it is not a complete thought. This is a dependent clause because of that word although. So it does not give me a complete thought. I have to eliminate the word although, and then I have an independent clause. Understanding and describing change is a common theme in the natural sciences, and calculus was developed as a powerful tool to investigate it. Now I have a very nice compound sentence, 2 independent clauses. Sentences are classified according to their function and their form. The function of a sentence is the purpose that it fulfills. The form of a sentence is the number and the type of clauses that it has. There are 2 types of clauses, dependent and independent, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. Now, sentence functions. There are 4 functions of sentences: declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. A declarative sentence declares or states something. Those are sentences that state an idea and end with a period. Interrogative sentences interrogate or ask a question, so they end with a question mark. Imperative sentences give orders or directions, and they can end with a period or with an exclamation mark, depending on the sense. Exclamatory sentences exclaim, so they would end with an exclamation mark because they convey strong emotion. So now what I would like you to do is to pause the program and identify each sentence as declarative, interrogative, imperative, or exclamatory. When you're done, come back. Around 1750, the first glue patent was issued in Britain for a glue made from fish. This is a declarative sentence. It's a statement. Part of the way I can tell, as you know, is from the end punctuation. It doesn't have a question mark,